I'm Sam Bompas, welcome to my SIP talk. So I started Bompas Parr with my best friend, Harry Parr, 15 years ago. And we call ourselves experience designers, but really we've been called many things over the years. Culinary deviants, party organisers, artists, chefs, architects. We don't really care what we are as long as we're delivering incredible experiences to people and memories that they can take home and tell their friends about. So recently we've done things like cooking with lava, so out in the middle of the desert in the Gulf, melting down 1.1 billion year old rock, pouring it out, cooking over it. It's about 1,350 degrees Celsius, so it's pretty intense. We've created pieces of reactive theatre, so made AI versions in New York of famous Brits, so people like Mary Seacole, Ada Lovelace, Agatha Christie, Charles Darwin, William Shakespeare, and then sitting you down in front of them so that you can have dinner with a dream dinner party guests. So I'm always very tickled when you see a new technology emerging onto the scene. It's seen as visionary, as groundbreaking, but if you know your history of spectacle, you can often find precedent. One of those in recent years has been something like Musion. So, we all saw when Tupac came to Coachella, really what they're doing is just a Pepper's Ghost illusion, which has been used in Victorian phantasmagoria centuries ago, literally centuries ago, but then combining that with video technology to create something new. Things that we've been excited about, which I touched on at the start, was how can you use AI to create scripted entertainment that rewrites the script in response to you being there at the dinner. So quite often when you go to so-called immersive, everything's immersive now, isn't it? But so-called immersive theatre productions, you might be able to walk around the set, there might be an elaborate set, there might be actors around you, but that show that's being created tends to be, with a few elements down to improv, basically on rails. What if everything you did, every decision you made, every word you spoke could reorientate the entire production around yourself so you become an active protagonist, just as you are in the real world? And so that's termed reactive entertainment. What we're doing is working with AIs and then combining that with improv actors so that you as a guest have all of your evening re-choreographing it around itself based on your decisions. The important thing when working with the senses is not just to think about all the senses individually, but think about them in totality, because that's how people understand the world. At Bompas Parr, we talk about polysensory, which means not just addressing all the senses, but addressing them over a time signature and adding a narrative to that. So people have a concerted, considered story arc right the way through their sensory journey. Now, what we quite often do is we use creativity in realms that people are much more used to talking about regularly, so sound and primarily visually. Those are the sort of higher senses in a sort of Aristotelian sense. And if you create spectacle, if you create something that's sonically addressable, then you find that people are very good at understanding it, or can be better at understanding it. And part of that is through language. I'll give you an example. We once built a working whiskey organ that played a symphonic sound, and in doing so, it changed your perception of the liquid in a glass of whiskey by about 20% as it's playing. Think first and foremost about the story that you're trying to tell and have that as your overarching thing, and then dial into the senses, but not just individually, but over the course of someone's journey. Now try and map out someone's sensory journey through your venue. And of course, there are these highlight moments. What's the welcome? How does it represent a sort of grand huzzah? How do you make people feel really, really special? We at Bompas Parr have a sort of 6-stage standardized plan, which is sort of anticipation, compression, reveal, risk, rewards, and then reflection. But in terms of those 6 phases, you've got anticipation. So that what is everything that happens on the way to your venue? So how can you make sure that it's simple as just having an expectation about how people are dressing, so that they're phoning the people they're going with, they're comparing notes, and when they get there, like the most important, I guess, piece of set or piece of dressing in your venue is how the people look, and everyone looks amazing. They've got talking points. It's a buzz before you've even done anything yourself. Of course, all of that is that sort of onboarding and that welcome. There's then the compression, and that's that bit where people come in, they get the lay of the land. How are they feeling welcome? Where do they put their bags, their coats? Do they need the bathroom? How are they seated to their table? How can that be personalized as well? Because there's a lot of very basic CRM technology that everyone's inputting that can really elevate that personalized experience. And it's just things like being recognized by your name and using the CRM to pull up your favorite drink, send you something that's analogous to it, that gets the conversation going. Then there's a sort of big sense of reveal, and then coming out into a big grand space or hall, and maybe there's a substantive light change. Maybe it goes very bright and you're dazzled, or it goes very dark and it takes a bit of time for your eyes to become accustomed to it. But there's a sense of spectacle. Risk is really important too now. We tend to focus on adults, and adults' lives become more interesting if there's a healthy amount of risk involved. For us, risk can be physical risk, physical jeopardy. It can be social risk as well. So if you think of that moment when the wine waiter comes to the table and says, well, what wine are you going to have? And you're like, oh my God, am I really going to screw this up? I'm going to be showed to be a total noob. But of course, that wine waiter's chosen all the wines on the menu. They think they're great, probably all of them. You'd hope all of them. Of getting this sense of reward, and the reward, food, there's nothing as rewarding as food and drink, which is this enormous dump of endorphins into your brain as you eat it. I love seeing that moment where you drop food on the table, you drop drinks in front of people, and you see the feral, the bestial behind their eyes. Conversation stops momentarily and people focus on their baser desires related to the plate. And then afterwards, you come to a moment of reflection. So that's all the experience afterwards, from that saying goodbye to the onward contact as well. And part of this is photographic, part of this is formulating the stories. How can you be, on Monday everyone asks each other what they did over the weekend. They've probably done loads of different things. Some of them, they're probably not polite to talk about in the workplace. How can you be the one thing that whatever they did, they want to tell their friends about you, because that's going to get people coming back.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.